Well, it's been a while since I've done one of those videos, but I am on social media and I do see what people say to me and the messages that they leave to me. Some people miss me, even though they know that I have kind of retired from the television videos. But, I figured maybe it's time that I come back and give people a free preference gaming settings that I use. I will give you also in another video my movies settings and my sports settings and a standard settings for all of the above. So keep an eye on those videos, they're coming. I'm kind of coming back, but I'm not like 100% coming back, just kind of coming back, testing the waters. This is really because people have been begging me to give them my own preference settings for free. Unlike some other individual out there who likes to charge people $5 for his own preference settings, and he calls himself a Master Calibrator. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Even people who are certified, they'll call themselves a Master Calibrator. Even Vincent Teo wouldn't dare to call himself a Master Calibrator. He's a certified professional calibrator that goes by certain standards. They're obviously used with television, communication, movie theaters, cinema, etc., manufactured television companies, stuff like that, studios. So he's certified. And I have nothing against certified calibrators. It's just that I like to use my own preferred settings. But as you will see, as I go through these settings that I'm going to give to you for free, you will see that I always try to stay true to the rules of calibrating. And what are the rules? Don't oversaturate the color. Don't overblow your white digital levels. Don't crush your black digital levels. And for the love of God, do not move your gamma all the way down to -4. And for the love of God, don't crank up your color to 97 clicks and have your Victoria's Secret look like a Red Lobster. But enough of that. Let's move into the settings. Let me give you those settings. This is for the C10. This is 2020 C10 48-inch that was given to me by LG from Seoul, South Korea, directly from Seoul, South Korea, as you all know. And I don't have any burn-in. Also, I don't have any burn-in on my E8. My E8 from 2018. All glass in E8 LG OLED since 2018. I haven't had any issues. So that's all I have to say about the burn-in. So let's get back to PlayStation 5 here and Horizon Forbidden West, and we're gonna go through my recommended settings really quick. I'm gonna go step by step. Hopefully you guys will grab a pen and a paper and write these settings down as I am actually walking you through it. Not only am I going to tell you what settings I'm using, but I'm also going to explain to you why I'm using these settings. And I'm going to tell you all of that for free. So here we go. All right, so obviously you're going to be using the HDR on this game. And you want to select HDR game preset because you want to have that lowest possible latency and the lowest possible input lag, meaning the lowest possible response time. So you want to go to HDR picture mode. So the OLED light at 100, this is something you have to do when it comes to HDR, so you can squeeze as much as possible of that peak brightness on this OLED. So you're always going to have your OLED light to 100 when it comes to HDR. Contrast, same thing. You have to have it maxed out to 100 clicks because that's the only way that you'll be able to squeeze the best possible peak brightness out of high dynamic range. Okay, so OLED light and contrast has to be at 100, but only when it comes to HDR. Okay, moving on. Brightness. What is brightness? What does the brightness do? Well, brightness adjusts your shadow detail, right? How much do you want to see the detail of the shadow, right? That's what it does. If you go too high, let's say 100 clicks or 70 clicks, then your shadow is going to look like there's a fog or a haze or a smoke surrounding it. And you don't want that, because you want to be able to see detail of shadows. If you go too low, well, let's do that for example. Let's say I want to go too low, like this. Now I'm actually crushing my detail of shadows, and my black levels are crushed. And we don't want that, right? We don't want to do that. Okay? So what we want to do, we want to keep it at 50. All right? And this is the reason why your brightness always has to be at 50. If we go higher than 50, if we go to, like, let's say 70, look at this. It looks like there's a smoke or a haze surrounding it. So you don't want to do this. This is a no-no. So where you want to be? You want to be at 50. And I'm showing this to you for free. Again, I'm not charging you $5 for this. That's how you help people, by giving them stuff for free, not by charging them. If you want to help people, don't ask them something in return. If you want to help people for free. Don't ask them for stuff in return. Now, when it comes to sharpness, this is a tricky one. Sharpness will depend on what resolution are you running this at. If you're running it at a very high resolution, then yes, sharpness should be at 0. If you're running it like a very low resolution, low bit rate, let's say you have 720p or 1080i or 1080p, then you might want to move the sharpness a little bit higher. Let's say like 10 clicks. That's where I would leave it. Like 10 clicks. If you are running like 1080p, I would say 10 clicks. That's my preference, 10 clicks. But since we're running this in 4K, dynamic 4K, we'll keep it at 0. Okay? We'll keep it at 0. Because we already have detail. We got, even if it's a 1800p or 1900p, it's still a high res, higher than 1080p, higher than 1440p, so we got a good detail. And therefore you want to leave the sharpness at 0. I hope that makes sense. And I'm telling this for free. I'm not charging you $5 or God forbid $10. The color, 50. Why do we want to keep the color at 50? Well, it's simple. We don't want to oversaturate. Here's what happens when you oversaturate. When you move to like 70, like some clowns do, or 80. Does this look to you natural? No. Does this sunset looks to you natural at 80? Of course not. So where you want to be? You want to be at the 50. And you always keep the color at 50. See, now it looks natural. Now it looks like a cinema quality. Keep that at 50. So let's go to another important thing right here. We covered the basic picture settings. Now let's go to the advanced control. Dynamic contrast This is a filter, an unnecessary filter that you don't need. And I'm going to turn it off. Do you know why? Because you're running high dynamic range. You already have OLED light and contrast maxed out to 100 clicks maximum. You don't need a dynamic contrast. You know what the dynamic contrast will do? It will only overbright your white digital levels. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to turn it off. And you want to turn this off. It's a filter. Unnecessary filter that you don't need when it comes to HDR. Trust me. There you have it. We turn off the dynamic contrast. I'm going to leave it like that. Dynamic tone mapping. You can use dynamic tone mapping because we are using a high dynamic range. And dynamic tone mapping will help brighten certain areas in the game that are using HDR. So dynamic tone mapping, it's a... So right now I have dynamic tone mapping turned off. And of course, if I turn it off, everything will become more bleak and pale and dimmed because nothing's being over bright. Because that's what dynamic tone mapping does. It brightens up the detail on HDR. It gives that nice tone of brightness, peak brightness, if you will. And now you see, it's back on. So you want to leave it on. Now this game doesn't support HGIG, so we're not going to use it. So we just leave the dynamic tone mapping on. And that's really what it does. Dynamic tone mapping brightens up the HDR. And it only works on HDR. You can only use dynamic tone mapping on HDR on the OLED. And that's what it does. It helps with the HDR. So you want to have dynamic tone mapping always turned on. So always want to leave it on. Super resolution, you don't need this. This is just a filter. You can use this if you're watching 480p or 720p content with a very low bit rate. For like a standard dynamic range, like a standard DVD or something like that. Color gamut, you want the color gamut to always be on automatic. Okay? Because if you go on the extended or if you go to the wide color gamut, then you're going to oversaturate your colors. So this is why you want to keep it on automatic. Why on automatic? Because this will help give you a natural color balance. You don't want your color balance to be oversaturated. So you want it to be natural. Remember, the whole idea of calibrating is to have a natural picture. So you want your color to be at a natural level. So keep it on automatic. That's what we're going to do here. White balance, I don't mess with this too much, like the method of 2 points, high point, red, green, blue. This is something you do when you have a very expensive calibrating equipment. But even professional calibrators, they spend hours and hours trying to mess with this, and it's really hard to get it right. So I wouldn't mess with this too much. Color temperature, I would keep it at medium. For gaming, you want to keep the color temperature at medium because that's where it needs to be, at the medium level. The warm, it's really for the movies. Warm 1. And warm 2. These right here are usually used for movies. We're talking about a video game here, so for the video game we want to keep it at medium. So keep your color temperature at medium for video game. I hope you guys are writing all of these things down and gonna try these settings. So let's look at it from a different video game. Let's look at our settings, for example, on the settings that I just gave you. Let's look at it on Gran Turismo to see how Gran Turismo looks. And here we are at the Gran Turismo 7. And look how beautiful and natural that looks. Now keep in mind, you really can't see what I'm seeing through a video, compressed video. This is why I give you these settings, okay? You'll just have to try these settings. They're free, and you're gonna see just how beautiful it looks, at least to me. And you're also gonna realize that I try to obey by professional calibrator standards. Yes, I'm using my own preference, but I try to obey the rules of calibration. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video, and I hope that it helps you. These settings are free. I'm not charging you $5 for it. You can use them. If you like them, keep them. If you don't like them, you don't have to use them. That's the beauty about this. And please keep in mind, you can't tell how something looks from a compressed YouTube video. You can see a comparison between QLED and OLED. I don't care how expensive the cameras they're using. No camera, no lens can depict what your own two retina eyes can see in person. So don't fall for that nonsense. Don't fall for that hocus pocus magic, because that's all it is. It's just a magic, trickery. You can tell how something looks looking at this video compressed. I know this video is long, but I was trying to give you my observation on some of the things that are going on in the television YouTube community, and I'm trying to help you here, give you my preference settings. So I hope that these settings will help you. Like I said, if you like them, use them. If you don't like them, maybe you can tell me why you don't like them, but remember, they're free. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next video. I'll give you my movies settings that I'm using for HDR. Till next time, take care.